Hey guys, my name is Lele and you are welcome back to my channel. I am a Band 7 registered nurse working here in the UK. Currently, I am a practice educator and I'm leading the preceptorship program in the trust where I work. In this video today, we're going to be looking at the changes made by the NMC regarding the consultation they have done into their English language requirements. And this is no longer about overseas trained nurses waiting to come into the UK. This also applies to people that are already in the UK working in non-registered nurse role. If you would like to know more about this change, please stay with me. I'll be right back. The background information on the consultation the NMC carried out for the English language requirement. So a lot of people who are trained outside of the UK wanting to come here and work, one of the biggest challenges they face is passing through the hurdle of proving their English language proficiency. And to be able to solve this problem, the NMC launched a consultation starting from the 17th of August 2022. To make it easier for us to understand what these changes are, I'm going to try and explain the whole change in two. So first will be about English language test, which is the IELTS and the OET, and the second will be about accepting alternate evidence of English language proficiency. And that alternate evidence of English language proficiency will be in the way of employer's reference and accepting postgraduate certificate. Let me also mention that when it comes to the employer's reference, there were 3 types of evidence that was reviewed. So I know it's a lot confusing, just stay with me. So everyone is buzzing, like nurses everywhere have been sitting on the edge of their chairs waiting for the NMC to come up with this new change. So I have read this, I've read the new proposal, which is going to take effect from January of 2023, and I'm going to summarize it. Number 1, regarding OET and IELTS. Currently, to pass an IELTS, to be able to register with the NMC, you are required to have a 7 in reading, speaking, and listening part of the IELTS, and then you are allowed to have 6.5 in the writing aspect. However, with this new proposal, you can now have 6.5 in these 3 domains and then a 6 in writing. Okay, and now if you want to compare this with OET, it means that before you were only allowed to have a B in listening, speaking, and reading, and then when it comes to writing, you can have a C+, right? But in this current change, what it means for nurses now is that you can have a C+ in the reading, in the listening, and the speaking part of the exam, and you are allowed to have a C in the writing. The first change the NMC have made is that you are able to combine 2 IELTS results as long as none of the domains in the English language test is less than 6.5, and you are allowed to have a 6 in writing. Okay, but at the end of the day, they want to see a band score of 7. So now let's make something clear here, because this is the aspect that even myself I was really confused about. If you want to use a single result to go ahead and register with the NMC, you need to have a 7 in the reading, in the speaking, and in the listening part of the IELTS, and you are allowed to have a 6 in writing. Okay, I believe that this result will give you a band score of 7. Now, if you want to combine 2 results of IELTS, you can have 6.5 in all of these domains. As long as you do not score less than 6 in your writing, you can combine this result and then use it to apply to the NMC. This same thing applies to the OET. If you want to use a single OET result, you are still required to have a B in the speaking, listening, and reading part of the OET, and then you can have a C+ in writing. Okay, and the period of time you need to combine this result is no longer 6 months, it's now 12 months. Because a lot of people are not even able to prepare properly to write this exam again in order to have 2 results they can combine. For the sake of clarity, I'm still going to repeat that the band score for passing IELTS remains a 7. That did not change. The band score for passing OET also remains a B. That did not change. And this is for those that want to use a single result of IELTS or a single result of OET to apply to the NMC. All right. Let me also mention, as you already know, that your IELTS OET expires within 2 years. And the people that provide this exam, the IELTS company, the OET company, they were part of this consultation. And they are of the opinion that people's English language skill tend to deteriorate after 2 years. Hence, the expiry date is 2 years from the time you obtained your result. Does that make sense? I don't know. I don't make these rules, but rules are rules. So it's a good thing that you know that the expiry date for your IELTS or for your OET was not affected by the outcome of this consultation. It remains 2 years. Okay, moving on to employer's reference. There were 3 evidence that was reviewed. The first evidence was for people that were registered in their home country as nurses, now working in the UK as healthcare assistants. So you must be practicing as a healthcare assistant in a UK established health and care sector. So if you are a registered nurse and you are working outside of the UK as a healthcare assistant, this does not apply to you. And you must have worked in that organization for at least 12 months for you to be able to qualify in this new proposal. So if you are a trained nurse and you're working in another capacity in the UK, this is an opportunity for you to pick up a role in a health and care sector. It could be a care home, it could be a hospital. I am going to strongly advise that people that fall under this category go and work in a hospital, because if you work in a care home, there are some care homes where you might not have a close interaction with someone who's registered with the NMC. All right, and remember, the person who's going to be your referee must have worked with you for at least 1 year, must be registered with the NMC so they understand the NMC's code of conduct and be accountable for being your referee, and they must also be in a senior position. Okay, so for instance, a band 6 or a band 7, if you're working in an NHS hospital, can be your referee. I also want you not to take it personal if some people, are not quite forthcoming or are not being straightforward with being your referee. I advise people to let whoever you have in your head that might sign your referee, let the person know well ahead of time that you intend to use them as a referee for applying to, with the NMC. To be able to, protect themselves, because they're putting themselves on the line by being your referee. Okay, the NMC might contact them to say, how do you know this person? Can you actually vouch for this person that they have the right English language competency? So people are allowed to also make their own assessment of your English language proficiency before they can put their name on the paper to say, yes, I support this person. I am happy to be this person's referee. Okay, so don't take it personal if people are a bit reserved when it comes to being your referee. I will encourage you to be upfront. Tell them why you need them to be your referee. Tell them, what is required of them. If you need to point them in the right direction so that they can read what is required of them, that is, if they're not aware, it might be good to give them heads up well ahead of time so that they are also prepared and happy to sign this for you. And using an employer reference is not on its own a standalone document that you can use to register with the NMC. No, you must use that together with a written IELTS or OET exam result. So if you are going to match your English language test result with an employer reference, the criteria for that is that you must have at least 6.5 in all of the sections. All right, and the writing already, we know that you are allowed to have a 6 in it. Now, under the employer reference, the evidence 2 that was reviewed is for nurses that we are trained in non-English speaking countries. Say for instance, Nigeria. If you're a nurse and you are trained in Nigeria, English is not our first language. However, we are all taught in English language. We are all assessed in our exams in English language. Now, how can you prove that this is the case? You can obtain an employer's reference, okay, from where you are working. As long as you've worked there for at least 1 year, you can get your employer to write you a reference stating that you have worked in this organization and that you are known to communicate very, very well with English. Okay, now that employee reference alone, again, is not enough to satisfy the NMC. They still need you to have a written IELTS or OET result that matches the same criteria that I have explained before. Even though you have your employer's reference, you have your English language test result, you are also required to get a verification from the school where you trained. Okay, so I trained in a nursing school. All right, so if I'm the one who's trying to make this application, I will go back to the head of the school where I've studied and require that they write me a verification letter to state that while I was training in this institution, I interacted with my colleagues, with my patients, with service users in English language, and all of my trainings was done in English, and all of my textbooks, classroom interactions, they were all done in English. If I can get this verified letter from the area, from the place where I trained, these 3 documents, the NMC is set to honor it and use it as a proof of your English language proficiency to register you. So some of the reasons why people kicked against using a postgraduate certificate is asking the questions such as, how recent must your master's degree be before you can use it, and apply? Like myself, I did my master's in 2016, so this is 2022. It's been nearly how many years now? 6 years. So if I have a degree that is 6 years old, remember that the NMC like to do things within at least 2 years. So if my master degree was done last in like 5 years ago, would that be valid for me to use it? Another concern that people raise is, if you have this master's degree, does it really prove that you have the right clinical interaction with your patient? So because of all these unanswered questions, the NMC are not happy to recommend the use of postgraduate certificate at the moment. They are willing to look into it more. They are willing to carry out more investigations around all of this to see whether there will be strong evidence that this will benefit a wider number of people. But at the moment, it has not been adopted. Now, the outcome of this review shows that more than 34,000 people participated in this review. This is to tell you how much people are waiting to see this change come into effect. All right, I know that having gone through the outcome of this review, I still see that there were some reservations to the things that people were expecting to see. A lot of people were expecting to see that the IELTS results will be reduced, that the band score will be reduced from maybe 7 to something like a 6.5, and the OET come down from B to something lower. Okay, so I know that a whole lot of people were disappointed that this wasn't the case. But I'm here to tell you that any little change is still a change. It's still a step in the right direction. Okay, the people that are championing all this change, they are still working. They are still gathering evidence to prove to the NMC that these are still the areas where we need to see some more changes. Okay, they want to make this whole English language testing, English language proficiency proving be fair for one and all. Because there are still more, even more, waiting to come and join the register. And the news about staff shortages in the UK, I mean, it's no longer news. It is the reality that we are all living in. So the more trained nurses that we can get, the more we can alleviate this stress of coming into work and being burned out because one person is literally doing the job of 3 people. And that's the reality. Okay? All right. So the changes that we are expecting to see might not come in the way that we're expecting them, but we have to be grateful for the fact that they are actually listening and they are willing to make little changes that they can, while more consultation and reviews and investigations is being carried out to see what more can be done. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. I hope that I have not confused you any further than what the policy itself, because I mean it's enormous. That policy was so big, so I was literally just digesting the information in tiny bits so that I can be able to explain it in a way that hopefully it's made a lot more sense to you. So I appreciate you for being here. Thank you so much for watching. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button, and I will see you all in my next video. Please take care. Bye now.